Adagarla. Ulrich. Here. Brecht. Here. Blythe. Carter. Claiborne. DeVore. Filippi. Finaldi. Goff. Larson. Lent. Mahoney. Rios. McCready. Patel. Paulson. Ruley. Schnipp. Seth. Sayaway. Simmons. Skaggs. Stout. Strickland. Thornton. Wagmeister. Weathers. Zuber. All right, with quorum, we'll go ahead and start the meeting. Next is a Pledge of Allegiance led by Speaker Weathers.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's no program for this evening, so we'll go ahead and move on to open forum. Open forum is an open discussion of issues relevant to students. Anything to speak about, please approach the podium and say your name and major. You'll have 10 minutes.
All right, so good evening. I'm Cody McCready, and I am the IFC Senator here on campus. Good evening, members of student government in Iowa State University. I speak to you tonight with a heavy heart as over the break, the Interfraternity Council lost a member of Beta Sigma Psi. In the early morning of December 23rd, 2021, Avery Carl Anderson of Atlantic, Iowa was driving north of Atlantic on Olive Street toward Interstate 80 when the vehicle he was driving lost traction due to the frost-covered road, causing his vehicle to fishtail. Unfortunately, Avery could not regain control of his vehicle and left the roadway into the ditch. His vehicle then rolled up onto its top, and according to the Iowa State Patrol, Avery was pronounced deceased at the crash scene, returning to his Lord and Savior. He was 20 years young. Growing up with Avery was not a privilege, but indeed it was an honor. The first sentences of his obituary describe the life of Avery perfectly, stating, quote, "Some lights shine bright, but much too short on this earth." That was Avery. Avery knew everyone and took time to build a lasting relationship with them. Anderson was a native of my hometown of Atlantic and was in the midst of his junior year studying meteorology here at Iowa State University. Most importantly, he was a proud, and I can truly say he was a proud member of Beta Sig. Avery, the son of Steve and Sue Anderson, was born in the middle of an ice storm during the state wrestling tournament on February 24, 2001. He was an only child. Steve was working for the radio station covering the tournament and was live on air when he got a call from his wife Sue informing him that her water had broken and Avery was on his way. Avery and I were not friends. No, we were brothers. I never thought of Avery as my friend because he was a brother to me, and I cared about him as such. A 2019 graduate of Atlantic High School, Avery's passion was in music and in performance. He put 110% into everything that he did. He participated in many musicals and would usually steal the show while doing it. Likewise, the sounds from his trumpet during band performances were truly a work of art. However, Avery's heart was large, and it showed every single hour of the day, as he loved to share his gifts and talents with others to brighten up their day. As a senior in high school, Avery finally fulfilled his lifelong dream of being selected as a member of the Iowa High School Music Association's All-State Chorus. After high school, Avery continued his passion for music as he frequently sang the national anthem at Des Moines Buccaneers games. He was also a proud Eagle Scout, providing vehicle preparedness kits for young drivers. Avery and I were also teammates on the swim team, frequently racing against each other in the 500-yard freestyle. I can tell you as a fact, from the multitude of pre-race conversations I had with him, he swore our coach made him swim this race because he hated Avery. And you could not convince him any different. As my coach told me after Avery's passing, he loved driving us to our swim meets and hearing Avery and I spar verbally within the vehicle's van about everything, including the shade of blue the sky was. Coach told me he's never seen two friends so close to each other as Avery and I were. After the swim season, Avery and I spent our summers chained to the baseball diamond. I only had one pregame catch partner, and that was Avery. Even when I pitched, I demanded that I still play catch with Avery, even though it was traditional for the pitcher to practice and play catch with his catcher. He would even catch my bullpen sessions before, after, and even before and after games. There was Avery, willing to help me all he could to achieve my dreams. Multiple team members remember how Avery complained about my slider and how he could never catch it in his glove. It always hit him or rolled past him, causing him to have to chase after the ball. He would then pick the ball up and launch it as far and as hard as possible toward my direction as payback. And to this day, I can still hear him in right field when I played left field, screaming at me from across the diamond about how many outs there were, even though the scoreboard was right behind me. I could go on and on about the stories I have about Avery, but we have class in the morning. Avery's always knew he was going to college and what he was going to major in. Avery was born a Cyclone, and he bled red and yellow. This spearheaded his lifelong passion for Iowa State, leading him to study meteorology at his beloved university. Avery's interest in weather began in the summer of 2004. When Avery was 3, he and his family spent a lot of time in their basement under tornado warnings. As they tried to explain to Avery what was going on, he found a love for the weather and made that topic the only thing he ever wanted to talk about. Avery loved weather so much that, according to his father, Steve, Avery could identify the model of a weather siren just by the sound it made. Sue would tell people, quote, "We have more weather radios in this house than I think they have at Best Buy." He was fascinated by storms and the science of weather. Family and friends, including me, knew that they could turn to Avery for personal weather reports at any time of the day. I will admit that I called Avery on the December 15th Rate Show, asking him for updates and what to expect from this particular storm. Little did I know that this would be the last time I would have the privilege of speaking to him on this earth. Avery even had a separate Twitter profile for his storm spotting with a pinned tweet at the top of his profile explaining that he wanted to use it to document the multitude of experiences he had while he was, quote, out doing what he enjoyed. He even reached major national news outlets, where some of his footage was used on air capturing a windstorm sweeping up dust from a dry cornfield near Atlantic. Lastly, Avery was a recurring host of the student-run TV weather program, Size Eye on the Sky, produced by the Iowa State Student Chapter of the American Meteorology Society. This chapter tweeted on Christmas, quote, "Avery will be dearly missed around our program. He always brought laughter and energy wherever he was, and he was emerging as a key member of our broadcast show this semester." However, Avery's faith was a cornerstone of his life. He was a lifelong member of St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Atlantic, but nowhere did his light shine brighter than as a counselor at Ingham Okoboji Lutheran Bible Camp, where Avery was a counselor as well as a lifeguard. His love for the Lord was contagious and influenced many around him. Avery worked primarily with families who spent a week at camp together, helping and leading them in Bible studies and faith-based activities. The director wrote on social media that Avery, quote, touched so many lives with his continuous encouragement, love for creation, especially the skies and the weather, and sharing God's love and life with others. Well done, good and faithful servant, unquote. Steve said that he hopes Avery will be remembered for the man of faith he was. His faith-driven life followed him to college, where he became a member of Greek life, being proud and faithful member of the Iowa State chapter of the Lutheran Beta Sigma Psi fraternity, representing the spirituality of the fraternity with his love for the Lord. Saying goodbye this soon feels wrong. Avery was a vibrant and passionate individual who will be deeply missed by the community and by everyone who had the privilege of meeting him during his short life. Words cannot express how I feel about his passing. Even weeks following this tragedy, I love you, Aves, and I always will. We will never forget you and your contagious personality. Our friendship and the multitude of relationships you had with people all over the world will be held dear in everyone's hearts forever. The fun experiences and many good times that we had together will never be forgotten and will always be tattooed on my mind. God took you way too early, but I know it's for a reason, one that I can't wrap my head around to this date. All I can theorize is that God needed a weatherman up there next to him, and he wanted the best of the best in the meteorology business. Avery was ridiculously happy in life. A good friend gone too soon is a tragedy and is truly heartbreaking. But what would have been worse is to never have met him. I'm grateful to have been Avery's friend in life and will continue to be his friend in death, honoring him in all I do. This connection you had with the world will not be weakened, but will instead grow stronger. Let us celebrate Avery's life rather than weep over his death. May you find blessing in your next life. He will wipe away every tear from the eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore, for the former things have passed away. Revelations 21:4. Please join me in a moment of silence to remember Avery Carl Anderson. Thank you.
Move on to adopting tonight's agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for this evening or any additions or changes? Speaker Weathers.
I move to add 2021-3-004 SG and 2021-3-005 SG to bottom of special orders.
Second.
Been a motion and a second to add those two bills to the bottom of special orders. Is there any objection? Right, seeing none, they've been added to the bottom of special orders. Any other additions to tonight's agenda? Been a motion to adopt tonight's agenda. Is there a second? Great. Seeing no objection, tonight's agenda is adopted. Moving on to the approval of minutes from the last meeting. Seeing no objection, last meeting's minutes are approved. On to committee reports, beginning with rules with Speaker Weathers.
Welcome back, everybody. Rules met yesterday just to get things going, get the ball rolling again. We primarily dealt with the annual report on student government contracts. We're still working on that, regrettably, but we hope to have it to all of you soon. If you want to be a part of any of those conversations, you're welcome to attend our next rules meeting or just talk to any of us, broadly speaking, that are on rules. We also looked at Rules Committee drafted legislation to remove Senator Cooper. That legislation got drafted, but it's not nullified as he has resigned. That came about as a result of a third nonfeasance. Our bylaws dictate that we draft that. Other than that, we ran out of time. The contract report really took a long time, as it has for every meeting. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but otherwise, that's all we did.
Moving on to finance with Finance Director Zastro.
Howdy, y'all. We did not meet this week for Finance Committee because we don't have any finance bills on second read tonight. We will have a few for next week. Over winter break, I reached out to all the orgs that started the budgeting process or the funding process, but haven't finished it yet. So we should be having a few more coming down the pipeline in addition to anything else that gets submitted to us. Annuals is all scheduled. That's on the board. If any of you have been in the Senate office, I'm sure you've seen that. That's about it. I do want to say, Cody, I really appreciate the tribute to Avery. There's so many people on campus that I've never met who are absolutely incredible, and that's one who's gone too soon. So I'm really sorry for your loss and the loss of the community.
Next is PR Committee with Director Garman.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone had a great start to classes. PR is going to meet next week for the first time. So the main thing that we have is Club Fest is next Wednesday from 11 to 4 here in the Memorial Union. There is a sign-up sheet on the MIS, so we would really appreciate if you guys would sign up. This will be an outreach credit. Thanks.
Next is Diversity and Inclusion. I don't believe we have one yet, but can we do it with the appointed person? With Director-elect Boomin?
Sure, we'll call that good. Hi, everyone. I'm Aliana Bowman. Yes, I was on the Senate for a whole session. Very sorry to leave you, but I'm still here. So a few updates. The committee does start next week, Tuesdays 8 to 9. We do have 4 vacancies to fill. So if you know anyone who's interested in D&I committee, please let me know and I can send the application their way. The link is open and it has been shared. So yes, keep an eye out for that if you know of anyone. We have several projects that we've been working on over the break. We have a Senate reform meeting, hopefully, with Jacob, Julia, Megan, and Sanjna on Monday, so we could talk about that with the DEI committee. I have also been in contact with the program coordinators for APEX and for the GWC program, as well as the coordinators in the MSA office to talk about outreach that I'm working on with Bryce. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on here. If you have any questions or want to talk about anything, let me know.
Next is Student Initiatives with Vice Speaker Advait.
Welcome back, everybody. SI Committee will be having its first meeting the coming Monday, which I believe is the 24th of January, just about 5 p.m., shortly after 5 p.m. in the West Student Office space. We will be discussing our upcoming events, our strategies for this term, as well as a welcome back event, which might not be a welcome back event, but might still end up having a lot of fun activities students can be a part of. I have a couple more things to announce. Two officerships a man does not make, and I do intend on relinquishing my position as SI chair. What this will mean is if things go according to plan, roughly next week we should have an election for the big chair. So what that's going to look like is just like the elections for vice speaker or speaker. So if you're interested in running, you'd be nominated on the floor. During the Senate meeting, there'll be a bill to appoint a new chair, just giving you notice if you're planning on doing that. And if you are on the committee, or even if you're not on the committee and are really interested in it, I would encourage you to run. Third, I hate to go full, now I'm going to go full old-timey professor on you. Inauguration is Tuesday, April 12th, and elections are Tuesday, March 1. What that means is we have from now on 5 whole weeks until the elections, and then 11 whole weeks to the end of the term, which is to say time is short, and we're going to be out of it before we know what hit us. So if you have projects, initiative ideas, what have you, now is the time to start on it, because these 11 weeks are really going to go by before you know what happened. If you have ideas, if you want to work on stuff, please reach out. Also, Student Initiatives has a couple open seats for Senate members as well as at-larges, so you're always welcome to apply. I yield.
Next is Civic Engagement with Senator Paulson.
Hello, just one update. I've been working with Kelly Winfrey. She works, she's a professor here and also works at the CAT Center, but we've been working and believe we're going to be putting a panel together just towards women running for student government to answer just questions about running and stuff like that and share their experience, but that's it.
Our student government advisor isn't here tonight, so we'll move on to someone from the judicial branch. Perfect. Chase will talk from the judicial branch. Moving on to comments from the executive branch with President Campbell.
everyone for being here tonight, and I hope the first 2 days of classes have gone well. If there's one thing that we learned from our cabinet meeting that happened at 4:30 today upstairs in 3512, it's that campus sidewalks are icy. So be safe, everyone. Stay warm these next couple days especially. Number one, to begin, I have a couple updates from the executive branch. We do have, and you'll be seeing for confirmation tonight, our nominee for the Director of Diversity and Inclusion, and she's been doing great work and will continue doing great work with lots of great teammates. So with that being said, we welcome questions and we look forward to her being up there for confirmation tonight. A couple things that you've heard before, but number one, we have the ball rolling with CELT, the Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching, on the inclusive classroom focus groups, and additionally talking about the U.S. diversity and international perspective credits. I think this is going to be really phenomenal, and Vice President Decker and I have been in multiple conversations with Laura Bessler about this, so please do reach out if you're interested. We've had about 3 people so far, and we'd like to get a nice, well-rounded group, so please reach out. Additionally, another focus group would be about American Sign Language offerings, both for potentially a minor or certificate. And if you are interested yourself or you know students that have interest, please send them our way. We have an email list, I think, of about 3 students' emails that have an active interest in pursuing American Sign Language, but currently Iowa State doesn't have something recognizable for them to walk out the door and say that they studied it formally, such as a minor or certificate. So please do reach out if you know of people or yourself are interested and would be consider pursuing something like that. For those of you who live in the state of Iowa and for those of you who don't, the Iowa State legislative session has begun. It started on January 12th and will run through April 19th this year. Is it the 89th? 89th, and there's multiple people in this room. If you have any questions that spend a lot of time down at the Capitol, just as a quick overview, the Legislative Ambassador Group that is run by our Director of Affordability, Julie Anderson, and Director of Government Affairs, Will Feit. The 3 priorities for the group are college affordability, mental health, and campus safety with an emphasis on sexual assault. We kicked off the semester at the Capitol with the Board of Regents breakfast that happened, I believe, or it was last week on Wednesday, so we talked to senators and the representatives as well as members of the Board of Regents about some of the priorities for higher education in the state of Iowa. 2 final comments. Number one, thank you for everyone's participation and interest in the SciThinks campaign. It was their most successful campaign ever. You'll see these numbers, but this year they received 342 SciThinks submissions. I know that some of you in this room received SciThinks from some of you in this room, and that's pretty special. So thanks for sharing the love on campus and positive energy there. Finally, this is an election year. Here we are. I think even before the new year, we can kind of get in the point that this is being pushed off till next year. And it is 2022. This is our last session as a group here in this room. Elections are coming up quickly, and I encourage you to be engaged. If you're considering running, ask the questions you need to, get yourself ready. And if you aren't, but maybe know other people that are ready to run, get them engaged. Again, go back and tap them. It's our responsibility to fill this room with critical thinkers, people who ask questions, and people who dig into the details and also come with a smile on their face, ready to work hard. And I know all of you do that really, really well. So thank you for being here. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them now. But before I do, I just want to say, Cody, thank you for your comments tonight. We all lost when Avery was lost, so he was very special, and I can tell that even just from the way you viewed him as a very special friend. So with that, I would pause. Are there any questions from anyone at this point in time? All right, thank you.
On SC, seating a voting member to the Election Commission with Speaker Weathers.
Yeah, Alex, if you'd like to approach the podium. Election Commissioner Ross Opie emailed me that they have an official nominee. I believe he's being moved from a non-voting member to a voting member. If Chase has anything he'd like to say to his credit, he's free to do so, I guess. Otherwise, you can go ahead and take it away, Alex.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alex Almquist. I'm a sophomore in political science here, and I'd like to be moved to a voting member in the Election Commission. I feel that student government, I'd like to make sure that it continues to be diverse and inclusive and also transparent, and I hope that I will work hard at that. So thank you.
Hey, thanks for coming out. What would you say so far has been your favorite thing working with the Election Commission in the length of time you have? And what would you say is, I know you said something about diversity and inclusion, but could you expand on any goals you might have being a voting member now?
With Election Commission, I like to see the inner workings of student government, see it all put together. And with the inclusivity and diversity, I think that Election Commission just help that everyone gets a voice in student government.
Thank you.
Question has been called for and seconded. Is there any objection to voting now? Any closing comments? No closing comments. We'll go ahead and go into a vote. We'll do unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to confirming the nominee for the Election Commission unanimously? Seeing no objections, you are confirmed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're all going to be hearing my voice, unfortunately, for the rest of the night on all of these. If Senator Schnepp and Senator Strickland would like to approach the podium, I believe they are the nominee. Oh, okay, sorry, excuse me. I'm a bill down. Senator Boomen, if you'd like to approach the podium. Unfortunately, she was taken from us by the election or executive branch, but should be more than qualified, as I'm sure all of you know when you saw her come before all of you, to be confirmed as a senator. So go ahead, Aliana.
Hey. You really scared me there for a second, Dawson. I was like, this is awkward. But yes, hi. Like I said, one whole Senate session, very sorry. But I think I'm qualified for this position. As I said before, I've done extensive work with Social Justice Summit. This is my second year on DEI. I was a peer mentor for the George Washington Carver Academy, and I've also done a lot of collaboration over with the GWC program, as well as with student accessibility services. So if you have any questions, shoot.
Hey, of course, I'm going to be sad to see another senator leave us. But I have a pretty important question, and that is, in your term as diversity and inclusion chair, it's very likely you will have to deal with individuals that may or may not exhibit the most inclusive behavior and might have to come up against viewpoints that you will find abhorrent, and a lot of us probably will. I suppose, what is your plan or game plan in dealing with conflict of this sort, and as well as dealing with discord in this manner?
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually dealt with this a lot. So I feel like this is something that I've really just grown up doing. I mean, I grew up in a very small rural community, and being one of the only people of color, I feel like I've mastered this role, but essentially it's patience. There are people who are going to disagree with you, and there are people who are never going to change their viewpoints. And that's something that you have to accept, and I think that's the biggest thing for me, is accepting that as much as I may try and I may want to voice my opinion and to share my thoughts, people are not always going to have the same reaction. And even if it does anger me, they are entitled to their viewpoint, and it is a free country, so they are allowed to have their viewpoint. In the event of someone getting, say, aggressive, or if it's, something on social media, really it just depends on who and what the situation is. For example, I know that there was a situation last year. Everyone knows all about what happened. And I did speak with Lauren Perk, who was the previous director, obviously not Alejandra, kind of about her role and how to dismantle that. So definitely, if it is something with the faculty or if it is something with the students, I will approach Megan and Julia. I will speak to them, kind of explain the situation, what's going on, and then from there, we can take the appropriate steps to handle that. So.
Great, thank you. Last question. What is one thing you're going to miss most about Senate?
You guys are really fun. Like, I appreciate that everybody's able to voice their perspective, and like at the end of it, usually no one has no hard feelings. Like, we all took a big group photo. I was here for like a whole 3 hours, and I was like, oh my God, this is great. So yes, I really do appreciate that, even though you guys do have differing perspectives, and even though there are conflicts sometimes, that you don't take it personally, and that, we're all here for a reason, and we do have a role to fill, and that you're very respectful of each other's ideas.
Great. So. Thank you so much. I yield.
Senator Wegmeister.
Yeah, I'm sure you all remember me speaking in support of Aliana last time for Senate. but now her resume is a little bit longer, so I guess her being a senator and all. I just wanted to offer my support, not that I suspect anyone contests her nomination or confirmation.
Sorry, my name tag's like falling over. I just wanted to ask, so as Vice Speaker Advait recently mentioned just a few minutes ago, we have about 11 weeks left until our session ends. So, you know, that's kind of a short time frame for you to like take on this role as Director of Diversity and Inclusion. So I guess what are your thoughts or your plans on maximizing that time, the remaining time that you have left until the end of our session?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually did have a meeting with Julia and Megan yesterday, kind of laying out my game plan. I have started plenty of outreach with Bryce. I actually started it last week. I'm very passionate about this. I'm very passionate about DEI and advocacy, so I have made plenty of connections. All of my projects so far are basically ready to go. I'm giving the PR team the inclusive training with my committee in a few weeks. I have a meeting next week with the Apex and GWC coordinators, as I mentioned, and I will be doing outreach with Bryce and the PR team to talk about DEI and how that fits into student government. My biggest goal for this semester is outreach and to get more not only marginalized students in here, but just more perspectives in here so we can have a lot of diversity in the Senate, not only in Senate, but in student government, so we can have that variety of perspectives. I'm also very big on the Senate reform. Again, I mentioned I will be hopefully having a meeting on Monday with Megan, Julia, Jacob, and Sanjana, so we could talk about the Senate reform and the comments from Chief Counsel Mike Newton and how that's all going to fit out. So, to answer your question, I am on top of the ball. Things will get done. I do have weekly updates with the senators on my committee and with Sanjana, who's my vice chair, and so we've been keeping each other in the loop, getting things progressed, and then we will also have a midpoint project report form that's due for the committee about halfway through the semester around midterms, just to kind of see where everybody's at and to see how I can help them achieve their goal by the end of the semester. Sorry, that was kind of a lot of word vomit.
No, that's great. That's a lot of stuff. You're doing awesome. I yield.
Senator Rios?
Okay, I think pretty much everything has been said. I just wanted to clarify that she's not new to diversity and inclusion. She has been doing a lot of efforts. We actually worked on a couple of projects as a team, and when she says she's going to do something, she does it. And I think that's a really good quality to have. And I'm just excited to see you as our director. Thank you.
Question has been called for. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection?
Also, I don't know who said UC, but that was the lamest UC that I've ever heard. You guys better speak up next time.
Okay, deja vu. Senator Schnepp and Senator Strickland, if you'd like to approach the podium. I believe both of these senators have been nominated to be on PR committee. I can't speak to their qualifications, but I know they've both been good senators. They both, however new, have expressed interest and have hit the ground running with a lot of things. So if you want to speak to your qualifications, why you want to be on the committee, any projects you have in mind, stuff like that.
Transfer student like me, I think having that voice for PR could be beneficial. In terms of qualifications, I did a little bit of social media stuff for my church growing up. I think a big church with a lot of old people is not super great at social media, so I kind of filled that role. But if you guys have any questions or any possible ideas, go ahead and shoot them my way, but I'll take questions.
Hi, my name's Rachel. I am here for Engineering Student Council. Basically, why I wanted to do PR is I just really like being very social around people, and I thought PR would be the best fit for me. I love having an active presence on social media, Instagram and stuff, so I think it's really important, and it's good to have a good image about yourself because information online is with you forever, so it's good to like make sure you're on top of it. How I'm qualified is I've done a couple of PR things through my sorority, done a lot of stuff on Instagram through that, so I kind of came up with some ideas for that. One of them was doing like either monthly or like bi-weekly like scholarship highlights. Like it's hard sometimes to go out and like find scholarships, and it's like a whole feed of itself, so if we gave some students some scholarship options, they'd be able to fill those out and it'd help get funding for them. Another idea is also to do like study spots around campus. I know a lot of us have different study spots and we're all different majors, so it'd be good to highlight those. And then also mental health, I think it's a big thing. And I've kind of like had some communications with some therapists here at Iowa State. And I think it's like hard sometimes because Iowa State's therapy fills up so fast, but there is like affordable therapy around Ames area. So I think it's good to highlight that, and we could look more information into that and produce that information out. So yeah.
Senator Smith, you already touched on a lot of this, so this is more to Senator Strickland, and you can add more if you'd like as well. Could you perhaps dive into what you see your role on the committee being and where you want to see your position take you?
Yeah, so not super knowledgeable about what PR committee does as of now, like their current projects, but something that I thought of would be like a every so often highlight of a club, different things that they do, kind of have someone come in, maybe talk about it a little bit. I'm sure that might be something that's already done, but kind of weekly updates, something like that. But
thank you. I yield. Call the question.
Second.
Question has been called for and seconded. Is there any objection to voting now? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and go into a voting period. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to confirming the nominees for PR committee unanimously? All right, seeing none. Congratulations. All right, moving on to 2021-3-005 seating senators to Rules Committee with Speaker Weathers.
Okay, I understand that the lines are blank right now, but I'll ask Senator Thornton and Senator Mahoney to go ahead and take the podium. They've both been in Senate for a long time. I'm sure all of you are familiar with their work and their credibility when it comes to this sort of thing. But Senator Mahoney has been attending multiple Rules meetings for a long time. He's been clerking for former Vice Speaker Crabb when she didn't want to or couldn't. So he is familiar with the process that Rules Committee follows. He'll be more than qualified to be on Rules Committee, and I know he's applied before, and it was a shame we couldn't put him on before. Senator Thornton was also a former member of Rules Committee, but they were unable to attend frequently due to scheduling conflicts. I believe those have been resolved now, and it's good that they have been because they were an excellent senator when they were a member of Rules Committee and were able to participate. So I look forward to having them both on Rules Committee again, assuming you all confirm them.
So I suppose I'll give my quick little spiel. I know everybody in the room, but I'm Eddie Mahoney. I'm Senator for Residence Hall. Like Speaker Weathers said, I've been going to Rules Committee for clerking for former Vice Speaker Crabb, so I'm pretty familiar with how Rules actually operates. I've passed a couple bills in the Senate. I've passed several bills through IRHA in my 2 years of tenure on that constituency council. I helped write the bylaws that IRHA currently operates under, as well as wrote the entire book that the computer science and software engineering currently uses as their bylaws. So I'm familiar with how bylaws at a governmental level work, and I've perused through our own bylaws quite extensively at this point, so I'm quite familiar with our own processes.
Hi, you guys probably know me. I'm Emmy. I represent design, and I really look forward to being on Rules so that I can reform the the bylaws, and I can look over rules, bills and everything before they get to Senate, to try to keep Senate as short as possible, because I know we appreciate that. Any edits on bills, to keep them nice and precise before they reach us is well appreciated, I hope. And I would just look forward to kind of exercising my own skills in rules as well, and improving. So thanks.
Vice Speaker Advait.
Hi, everyone. It's me again. Apologies in advance. I'm going to ask a couple more questions this time. Rules and Finance are two of the only constitutional committees we have, and they have a very critical role to play in the way our system operates. So first of all, I'm guessing you've spoken to Speaker Weathers already, but can you make our Tuesday 6 p.m. times? Okay, wonderful. Coming from your perspective as senators right now, could you speak to any ideas you might have for the committee, but even more specifically, is there something you'd like to reform, any changes you want to see made, anything related to the rules that as senators you think can be improved by in the way how the committee works, and how we can work with the rest of the Senate on that as well?
I have my idea. I can go first.
Okay, I do have.
So one of the big ones, I've actually probably talked to quite a few number of you about it. I know it's been brought up before, but I think kind of the way our abstentions work is kind of silly. You're basically punished sometimes for making the right decision to withdraw yourself if you actually have a genuine conflict of interest because you're implicitly voting no, but essentially. There's a lot of there's different ideas up in the air about like what it could maybe look like that would be an improvement over what we have. And that would be something that we would work on as a group, but that's kind of one of the big things I've been like kind of thinking and spinning about and talking a lot about with different people. I know I've spoke with Vice Speaker Advait about it. I've spoke with Chief of Staff Ludwig about it extensively. I know I've spoken with a number of you about it. That's kind of one of the big ones that's like, I think we could really do and make a good improvement.
I'd like to focus on bylaws, specifically trying to make sure that they are as simple as possible to read without having to take a lot of time to parse through the jargon. When you first glance at them, not only, they have gotten shorter since I've at least first joined, but trying to get them to be even shorter in total, as well as make it so that they are less vague to interpretation. Sometimes having a couple of them vague to interpretation is good, but you have to make sure that you understand when it's good to be vague to interpretation. Knowing which time, like which circumstances it's good. Not all bylaws need to be vague to interpretation. Sometimes you really need to be precise. And so I think that's a project that I would be willing and interested to work on.
Thank you. The next question I have, and I know FD's asker is probably going to appreciate me asking this, what do either of you believe the appropriate role of the Rules Committee is, and how can we be holding ourselves to that standard?
I think on it. Well, like how to word it.
I think the appropriate role of rules is to think critically of our bylaws and then think critically about them, follow them, and then make sure that we're upholding the Constitution at times. But always make sure that we are reviewing ourselves before we put it through to Senate, so that we always have our best foot forward, so that like our job as senators is to make sure that we are always doing our best by students. And in order to do that, I think rules need to be critical about ourselves and about the bills more thoroughly than maybe we are on the Senate floor sometimes, because we really do give it that earnest check before it gets on the Senate floor.
So I think Rules Committee has always have to do their due diligence to make sure that any bill bills, any bylaw changes, any of that is going to be upholding to our own bylaws, our own codes, constitution, any governing documents we have, and just frankly what we want the spirit of student government to be. I don't think they should ever be a judge or a gatekeeper for Senate, but sometimes they can be a little bit of a filter where a bill that's obviously going to just get ripped up and take a huge amount of time, maybe we can make it a little more workable or propose some changes that when it hits the Senate floor, some of the big glaring red flags are maybe smoothed out a little bit so we can continue to have a more effective Senate and more productive Senate. We all know how long a 4-hour Senate gets, and sometimes I think rules could help keep that going a little bit quicker so that we can continue to be effective in Senate when there's a large group of us.
Thank you. And you could answer this in a really short manner. What are your thoughts on the maxim, everything is permitted unless prohibited?
Can you repeat that?
Everything is permitted unless prohibited.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's somewhat of a tough one. If you want to go with a strict definition, legally probably that's probably true. But I think if you start throwing morals at it, I think there's certain things that break down. Like there's things that might be allowed but not morally right. And are you arguing that it's morally prohibited? I think a lot of what we do is legal, but a lot of what we do is moral. And sometimes we do have some moral judgments that we pass. And so I don't totally love that saying, at least from a legal standpoint, 100%, but from all of us, in totality of what student government does, I don't think that's super fitting necessarily.
You can argue that everything's permitted unless it's explicitly prohibited, but in order to be a tolerant group, you cannot be tolerant of intolerance, so you have to proceed with that in mind. So just because it is not explicitly prohibited, it's like Mahoney said, you should err on the side of caution. And I feel like if this is erring on the side of free speech and stuff, especially with our history on campus, I would again just say you cannot be tolerant of intolerance.
Interesting. Thank you for your insight. Last question, I promise. What is your favorite bylaw chapter?
What was the one that I helped write? I helped edit 12 over summer break, so I'm gonna go with that one. Yeah.
We spent enough time on it, and it's maybe controversial, but I kind of like chapter 15, especially with some of the concessions it made about our website. That's kind of my wheelhouse.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll move the amendment on screen, adding the names of the two senators to the blanks.
Second.
Been a motion and a second for the amendment proposed on the screen. Is there any objection? We'll go ahead and go into a discussion period.
How's my last name spelled?
Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to adding that amendment to the bill? Seeing none, it's been added. It just is your names. I guess from the blanks. Yeah. All right.
We got it.
Any other? Senator Brecht. Yep. Go right ahead.
As a former member of Rules Committee, I would just like to ask what your opinion is in contexts where, under what circumstances should our rules be violated?
My gut reaction wants to say never. I'm sure I could come up with maybe a hypothetical where there's vague. Actually, I suppose I can kind of come up with one that we sort of had over the winter break where it was a little bit up in the air what was happening with vice speaker and SI chair and how that was going to work and what was actually allowed. And in that case, maybe you do operate in the gray for a tiny bit to allow SI to continue to be effective while you find the replacement so that the switchover can be relatively quick rather than just like, all right, no SI chair, and then take a couple weeks to get things rolling again. But that's kind of operating in the gray a little bit more because it's up to interpretation with exactly how our bylaws work because they're a little bit vague. But I would say if there's actually concrete things, unless there's some hypothetical that some on high law changes things, I'd have 99.9% of the time, no, they shouldn't be. If they're wrong, we should change them.
I'm thinking that if there's a situation that requires a rule to be broken, then the rule either needs to be amended or wiped. I don't know if there's a situation that would require a rule to be completely broken. No. For the sake of just making sure that everything is treated consistently, where like anything that comes to Rules Committee gets the same kind of treatment on the cases that we view. But I don't think that there would be a time where it's just like fibbed.
Do you yield? Good to go? All right. Are there any other questions for the candidates? Great. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? All right. Any closing comments? No closing comments. We'll go ahead and go into a voting period. Oh, we do have closing comments. Excuse me for assuming.
Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to say that those are good questions. And even though it took a while and it was a little dry at times, I do want to reaffirm that these are both good candidates and that Rules Committee is an important committee to be on. So I appreciate the scrutiny. I appreciate the armchair philosophy questions. It may seem like it's trivial and unimportant and a waste of time sometimes. But like Vice Speaker Advait said, this is an important committee. We can debate that all day, how important it is. But at the end of the day, these are big changes that Rules Committee gets to make and has some degree of oversight over. So thank you for the questions. Thank you both for applying.
All right, we'll go ahead and go into a voting period. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to confirming the nominees unanimously? All right, seeing none, they've both been confirmed. Congratulations. All right, moving on to new business, 2021-3-001Y, changing Election Commission's violation process with Senator Paulson.
We'll see this next week. Yeah, you'll see this next week.
Any questions?
Any questions?
All right. Yep, that's fine.
That's it.
It's just an introduction. Yep. All right, moving on. 2021-3-002F, funding Iranian Students and Scholars Association with Senator Claiborne.
This is event funding. It says one right now did not get the Excel sheet, but next week there will hopefully be amendments to break down further. So yes, any questions?
All right, any questions of intent for Senator Claiborne? Seeing none, we'll move on to 2021-3-00, I think that says 3, funding Iowa State Equestrian Hunt Team with Senator Wagmeister.
Yeah, similar to the Iranian Students and Scholars Association bill, expect some amendments from finance. We'll see this organization on Tuesday, and it's entirely possible that a lot of the numbers change between now and then.
All right. Seeing no questions of intent, we'll go ahead and move on to closing announcements. If you have any closing announcements, please raise your placard. Senator McCready.
Yeah, okay. So I just want to quickly say thank you to everyone who shared and donated to our family's GoFundMe page over the break following losing our farm in the December 15th storm. Saying thank you really doesn't carry enough weight in showing our gratitude and appreciation for everything you all have done. So thank you, and you know, we truly mean it and we truly appreciate it.
I just wanted to give a quick attendance reminder. With this microphone, I feel like I should start doing karaoke because it just feels so different. But anyway, for attendance for this semester, same as always, please just let me know. It can even be like 2 hours before if you're sick. Just please let me know before. It just really helps with getting vote totals correct and things like that. As long as you tell me, you'll most likely be excused unless it's a repeated occurrence, and then I'll probably start asking questions. And then if you repeatedly do not come and do not tell us, that's how you get a nonfeasance. But otherwise, we should be good to go. And most of you are really good about letting me know, so I appreciate that. We are into a new session and a new year, which is really exciting. And this is the last session for this administration, this Senate body. And I just wanted to say I'm kind of into some of that like cheesy self-development stuff for New Year's. So, you know, when people say like they have a word of the year. So my word of the year I wanted to share with everyone tonight. Mine is savor. So savoring, you know, whether that be good food I eat or the moment you're in or the organization you're immersed in at the time. And so I just thought that was kind of a good reminder as we head into the last session to savor these moments that we have together in the committee work you're doing, the classes you're in, even though this is a stressful time for everyone. We're all lucky to be here, and I'm really excited for this session. And it's going to be over before we know it. Like we said, elections are coming up. So I just think we should all enjoy these last few meetings together and really bring your best self to whatever you're doing. So that's just a fun reminder as we go into the last session. Is there any more closing announcements? Chief of Staff Ludwig.
Yeah, just very quickly, student engagement asked me to remind you all that Welcome Fest is going on across the hall till 8:30, so if you have time and interest, feel free to pop over. A lot of fun stuff happening. Have a good night.
All right, we'll go to Vice Speaker Advait and Speaker Weathers to finish it off.
All right, Lectures has a bunch of really cool things coming up. Lectures.iastate.edu. Check them out. What else? Yeah, if you are thinking of running for SI chair, you want to talk to me, I'll be around. I'm like a walking, talking transition report, so that's cool. And lastly, the maxim is everything which is not forbidden is allowed. What that really, in terms of the individual citizen, where that goes to is as an individual citizen, you have the power of competence and you can do anything unless there's a specific legal governmental law prohibiting you from doing it. For governments, interestingly enough, it's flipped over in the sense that everything which is not allowed is forbidden. So governments can only take actions that they're expressly authorized to, especially at our level. If you're interested in this even more, especially the local level, check out Dillon's Rule. I found that really interesting when I took a local government class, but I'm going to stop now. Thank you all, and stay safe. It's going to be really cold and, as has been mentioned, icy.
It looks like we have one more closing announcement. Senator Wegmeister.
Yeah, I moved to add Senator Rulli and Senator Lent to the roll.
Any objection? All right, seeing none, you've been added to the roll. All right, Speaker Weathers.
Beat me to it, Jay. Yeah, thank you all. A quick, short meeting. Productive, though. I think it sets us off. It doesn't tire us out. We're going to get the ball rolling on a new term. I won't beat a dead horse on saying that now's the time to act. Savor, if you're into the cheesy sort of thing. And I also don't want to be the bad guy, but make sure you're completing your duties. I've outlined them all via email, so I won't do it again here. But you're really not beholden to us or anyone up here. You're beholden to the people who elected you and who you're purported to represent. What's that? Yeah, office hours. I know there are a lot of questions about that. Senator Advait says we're a go on office hours, so please be showing up in the office, making sure that you're available, making sure that you're collaborating with your fellow senators. I don't believe there's anything else. Thank you all for a quick, short meeting. Move to adjourn, go cyclones.
Is there a second? Second. Seeing no objection, this meeting is adjourned.